about ready to pull out of that flag.
Yeah.
Good evening. We'll call the special town board meeting order Wednesday, September 17th. It's 5 p.m. We're located at the Palmyra Town Hall, W1125, Highway 106, Palmyra, Wisconsin. Certification of compliance with open meetings law.
Yes, the agenda was turned against it.
Roll call.
Diaski.
Here.
Martins.
Here.
Sorry.
Here. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming, folks. Number one, workshop for 2026 budget year. Any and all town budget matters may be discussed during this workshop. Okay. So Josh,
So admittedly not a ton of new data in this since the last budget meeting. We talked about potential fire fees, I left that in there, that's over. So. So, again, this 375, kind of just some ballpark numbers that we had used last time. I think as time goes along, we'll find more info on that and figure out whether or not it comes into play and what it makes it in. But,
you guys can slide up if you can't hear the deal.
I got bigger hands in.
Just roll this up.
This is what that.
Where's the, that's,
Yeah, all of our forward leading accounts are all the revenue accounts, and all the 5 leading accounts are all the expense accounts.
go back to that, okay, till it,
That would be on the financial statement, that would be 91.
It was 91 and change, I can't remember the change. It's low 90s.
what, so that's a, what is remaining in the, emergency fund?
So emergency management, we budgeted 50. Currently used about 15. I think these two, this 929 is an invoice from August meeting that I know that we had when we started this whole thing, so.
So 15,000 can use, there's 35,000 left.
Correct.
So,
Good.
so,
Additionally, we kind of hit on these 2 accounts last meeting, a couple different times for different reasons, but tree service and emergency management, currently we've got 25,000 left in the budget for tree service, and like you said, about 35,000 for emergency management.
So is it fair for me to say, Josh and Rob, that, we wanna make sure there's 50 in, yeah, right? We put 50, got 50 there.
tree service.
Right, so assuming that there'll be another, just the way things go, calls and get periodically, but, there was a big $5,000 off, that 20,000 left. You think that'll be drained down and some project that you think should be done, Josh?
Well, we've got a few financial related things still up in the air, from the town yet this year. I'll raise it that way. What I can tell you is this, about 2.5 weeks ago, on a weekend, for the majority of Saturday, went out and I toured Young Road, Tamarack, Little Prairie, Tower, Carlin, and Mill. So kind of like the southeastern third of the town. We have 142 trees that are dead, that are standing in the right of way, that have the propensity to fall in the right of way. I documented all of them with photos and with latitude and longitude until my pink paint ran out because I had no idea it was going to be 142. There's an X on all
Really did go ahead, didn't you?
So by the time I was out at Mill Road, I just decided to document where they were with picture and GPS locations. That does not include probably 50 or more trees that are in the right of way that if they fell down would fall somewhere other than right of way. Or trees that are at 35 feet from the center line instead of 3 feet from the center line, which means that they are property trees, not town trees, that either could or could not fall down. So I legitimately just looked at 66-foot corridor or 50-foot corridor, depending on the road. Trees that were dead, not trees that needed to be trimmed, trees that were dead, that more than likely are going to fall into either the 66-foot, 50-foot hallway or into the road specifically.
Okay,
So-
because of budget purposes, I'm asking this, I'm gonna drain that down to using that up, and then, let's say, November-ish or something, and send them out, and, we'll give them a list, and you want this, you want that, get it done, or what?
We could do it that way. Even if you took, there's trees that are 8 inches around, and there's trees that are probably 2.5 foot across. Gigantic, old dead maple trees. Or there's a ton of green ash trees that are standing dead that have just finally petered out, and there's nothing left but a rotten standing tree there. If you took $500 a tree, which some of them are going to be $1,500 and some of them might be $150, but $500 a tree as a round number, we're looking at $70,000 worth of dead tree. No tree trimming.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
There are loggers out there that would pay property owners to come in and harvest their trees. Is it worth talking to any of these companies that and say, hey, you can make the case, you come take them down at your expense, you make the case, you can have all the wood.
We can, the starting point to me was to document how bad it is or where it is.
I
And
guess-
right now that encompasses about, I'm gonna say, somewhere between 10 and 12 miles of road, probably 28 that we need. So
So-
not quite half.
So moving on from this subject, that bank is gonna be zero.
Right, but having brought it up, question whether, well, it might not be, if we have an action plan to contact logging companies, and they have.
Well, we have to put it on, but we might as well assume that 25,000.
kinda took what I thought, just because of where we've been in the last 18 to 20 months of trees falling down the road, I went down those roads specifically. We haven't had, knock on wood, haven't had a whole lot of calls from Marsh, Tunski, Piper, you know, Marion, all of the other ones. We haven't had a ton of those calls. So I went on the roads that we have to see how bad it is. Either one thing or the other. Did we get all of them or how much more is left? So,
You say you went there alone?
no. We could, what I guess the easiest way for me to say this is, we could easily expend $25,000 in insurance yet this year. Whether we choose to do that, choose to roll it over, help offset some of the costs of 2026, or choose to use it for a different purpose entirely. Saving this in this is a whole census. There's our number. We're 215 whole.
Scroll down. You put the 488 in for fire, right?
Yes.
So the 488 is 50 points. The rest are 250,000. That's when you zero road units. Back to that, zero road units.
Side for our properties.
Yeah. All rights, road chips. Road deal. Okay, I guess you answered my question on that. It was done with. God. Mileage. And reimbursement, we're talking like we go to the, conference and stuff like that.
Yep.
I don't like the race. We're really short on that. You spent that somewhere?
1207,
So,
1500.
Okay, so my deal is in there. So it's
not your
not, so,
mileage.
okay, so it's 1207, you didn't add in the last thing she paid, you back for credit cards.
Right.
Well, so that's over. I'm gonna have some mileage on some, description, comment on other places, talking fire engines, and other districts. So, I think we ought to make that, we should raise that, raise it to 2,000. We're gonna be short of snow. Nobody's going to any specific meetings with, just like that, you know, grants, so.
So, I mean, realistically,
How's that 215 negative? Is that just based on the numbers that are in now? Once we populate all the October to December estimate, that's going to increase the estimated total. So if we're in the red at 25, will that not carry over to 26?
it would. So this 226 number up here, this guy, that is going to be effective. As of right now, on paper, we're 226 grand into the good. That's through August, okay? Because it includes, it's through August plus some additional, like this ice and snow and road construction and personnel. So this 226 number, as we continue, let's just say, we put in $10,000, right? It'll bring it down, correct, yes. So depending on where these estimated numbers come in,
certainly, I mean, it'd be fantastic news, but I certainly don't expect us to have a surplus for 25.
To me, I would generally agree with you, to me, the biggest variable is ice and snow. Because we've spent 55, we're ballparking 50 to get us through the other half of the front half of the season. I mean, if that is only 3 snowfalls, then we would surplus within that line, if that makes sense.
Big thing is that line item, yes, I'm talking overall.
So we have 30 grand of snow removal after say the 10th of December. We're not paying those bills till January. So there's gonna have to be a budget amendment. That's what it's 25.
Eventually, those bills, and this is something that the auditor has clarified, or I clarified with them this year, is that they are doing year-end adjusting audit entries to move, even though when we started this process in 2023, looking at 2024, those numbers were rolled through, right? The audit entries had come down, where it would say the mowing for 19 grand that we got, whatever, a fall of 2022 and showed up in 2023. Those audit entries were prepared, they just weren't entered into budget as an adjustment. So we are doing this in what would be normal terms, where if costs are incurred in a year, eventually through the audit process, they backed into the year that they were in. When we started this in 2023, the assumption and the description or explanation was that it was based on invoices. So it is based on invoices to a point, comma, until the audit's complete, the audit entries are done to back those costs back into the prior years. For ease of digesting all of that, if you just think of next year we need 20 grand more if those bills came in, right? So we would take money from 2025 and move it into 2026 and say we're gonna pay this amount because we got that amount left over last year because the invoice came in on the 20th of December.
Well, in this $105,000 loan, $5,000, is that figured in there?
It is. It is.
It is figured.
So we have, let's start here, right? We have a total estimate, this is the 85, the 84, and the 105. Okay, the 85 draw from the line of credit, and the 105 from your note that was at the last meeting. So this is shown as revenue this year, along with the 273,902 while we made in July, for a total of about 463 proceeds from that. So that's the revenue side of it. The expense side of it in 25 is essentially shown in that line. Highway and street construction on top, right? So those are the two offsetting pieces.
We're, you have an update on the airport, and I want to pay us back.
I moved today the airport revenues, so they're all in the same account. I'm not ready to get far, but I can pull the invoice book, I just want to go through it because I started doing it a different way than I do it now. I want to be sure I'm not going to really, it's not a mess, really.
Somebody just came and said it's over half.
No, not really. It was because, I put some of the money in the airport fund, and I think I put some in the miscellaneous revenues, but to be honest with you, I didn't write all. And in between getting it,
Is that right?
I moved it today, but Josh doesn't have any reports, so. It's all in the same spot now, it's all in the airport.
So where do you think it's at?
Well, I'm telling you, I'm looking at it.
I mean, Jonathan's supposed to come up with an answer on both.
what we can do with the hangar owners that have paid. That was an action item. Because if there's brands sitting out there and they're just not paying,
Well, that's it. We're at the people's mercy, we pay the taxes.
this goes back to the argument against. Oh, everybody would pay it, everybody would pay it.
Yeah, yes, we're 2/3, 3/4 of the year, but that's,
And what is the airport commission doing to assist in collecting this?
okay, so if she provides me the list of the people that haven't, I'll be giving it to the chairman of the commission, and he can deal with it with the airport. This is not, he's somewhat reluctant to act on certain things.
He's always reluctant to act on anything that we ask him. Let's be honest.
So I'll try to say it a little softer, but
We don't need it.
I know you, Rob. You know what I'm talking about.
No, it's, you know,
I just trying to joke around, but
so we're showing it under miscellaneous income. And so we can write down the account number.
what is it?
48900 dash
What is it? Dash two,
and 48900.
period.
Correct. And then on the expense. So it's 77,210 paid to the land office for survey, meter, property documents, for fees. The other stuff was something the company repairs, but to make up that 69.
Just so you know, she lost.
Yes.
I can tell you that, although, as you said, there's some variables, we paid the 7,000 whatever for the survey, which I don't believe we
Survey
budgeted
was
for.
18,000,
That's the tax bill.
so it's 25,000 left to reimburse.
Well, what we had in the budget, or what we counted for was $20,000. We were expecting in revenue. We've received $19,238.31 in the airport account, which which is 96.2%, but it's not entirely true because this 20,000 doesn't include the,
7,000,
and then there might be a little adjustment for electric costs and reimbursements.
What percent of the hangar owners have paid?
And I cannot answer.
so what I'll do,
I can do that tomorrow.
so if you,
So let me just back up for a second, because we're getting, we're concerned. When we paid tax,
Where do we pay it from?
did you pay it to the county or to the village?
We paid it,
the county just was delinquent.
yes, it was delinquent. So anything not paid, and besides the second payment goes to the company. It was 18,000 something, as I recall, for it.
So 18,000
plus the 7,000 survey. It's 25,000 something.
So we
That
got,
we totally should be reimbursed.
so it's looking as if we need to get about another, 6,000 sharp.
Well, and don't forget that, and this is something that came up, remember we were charging those surveying charges. We're dividing it among every handler. And, this is gonna create a little bit of a problem because the airport, and you had actually talked to me about it too, did not feel it was right to charge them for every single handler, that maybe it was a town of one. So there are 8 handlers in the old one, or 6?
Those were, was it,
Not brand new ones,
Eight,
yeah,
81.6.
8 new ones. And,
so
so
8 times 30, you take
8
that.
times $106 a piece for the survey. And there's some change in it, but I can't remember what that is. So the airport is willing to pay one of those surveying charges, but they're not willing to pay the remaining 7.
Well, I'm,
That's not their choice.
I'm confused. I agree with you on this. I'm confused.
Okay, the original TA, the one that's going out stores and done, was surveyed as its 8 units. The surveys, these are anyway, right?
Correct.
8 separate legal descriptions.
Think of it like a contract.
Later on, some people said, of course, no input prior to it, but after it's done, some people said,
These facts and shoulders. Let's say there's 120 units. Just pick a number, 120 units. 110 of them are individual. 10 of them are owned by the airport. Town, whichever. What you're talking about is rather than dividing by 120, in fairness to the individual hangar owners, we should divide by 110. And then the 10 that, and that's what each of them get charged. The 10 remaining that are town or airport owned, we should be paying the survey cost. That's,
you've got it. That's my understanding as well.
and my personal position on this is the airport should be paying for something.
They're not doing it.
But they're the ones using it.
And once this was brought up, it was too late, but.
They're the ones getting the revenue from, we're not getting the revenue from the rental hangars. Why should we have to pay for it?
What's happened here is, moving back, I was supposed to say something wrong. But moving back years ago, of course, we got all the money from taxes and the whole thing. Now it's, I don't want to say this, but I don't mean that, but it's certainly expensive for the town. Airport is one way or another. It is starting to cost us.
And yet they will claim that they are self-sufficient, that we pay electric bills, we pay all this other stuff, et cetera, et cetera. We'll just, we always have, we disagree on something, and that's fine. But at some point, given our budget, we need the airport to step up and start paying their expenses.
Let me interject, please, Rob, we brought over a couple checks for electric to Emily.
Oh, maybe 2 this year, so?
9 months.
Well, the checks they brought over, I don't know what period they cover. They could be more than 1 month, 30 months.
We have no idea if they're correct amounts either. We need, we are straining, we need to get back, but we need to get them to put their own budget. That's just a different issue for another night.
It is affecting the budget. Okay, continue, Josh.
I mean, these are all valid conversations, so.
Well,
In the big picture of things, the town is the owner of the airport, and the operation of the airport is under the airport commission. That's one thing. But if the town is the owner, the town is the owner. Right? So from a,
And we get the revenue from the,
from the, like, if we're getting, like, I get the that's the case, then where do we draw the line on, to your point, or overall expenses? If the airport, if you look at it as an apartment, right, because that's kind of what it is. It's an apartment that's run by a different board than the county. I understand they've got their own property insurance, is from what I'm told, and they've got their own vehicle insurance and all the rest of the stuff, but there is an amount of the overall operation of the town that is just a department and it reports to a different board. It doesn't mean that it's autonomous from what's going on. So if we, same thing with the stormwater.
I agree, but if you're talking to the airport commission, they believe they are autonomous.
So, same thing with the stormwater fees, and I never got an answer on this, I don't know if you've ever really addressed it, but the stormwater fees, the structure of which those fees are applied, the stormwater fees are automatically no different from the first tax bill, or call it future T-payment fees. We're exempt from the property tax, personal property tax items, but the stormwater bills ultimately, in my own mind, should be being sent to the town, so we have a copy of it and recorded, and like it's their department of bill. And the mechanism for
What the logistics are.
right, the mechanism for which they're collecting it, quite honestly, I disagree with it, because they're dividing it by the number of buildings. And stormwater is not based on a number of buildings feet, it's based on impervious surface, meaning stuff water can enter. So, in my own mind, stormwater costs, although they're not part of our budget, I know it has been leveraged that it should be part of our budget. And if it is part of our budget and our expenses, then we have the ability to institute what the collections of that looks like.
You're saying it should.
It's been taunted that they're doing the town by airport managers and by airport commissioners in the past 2.5 years, that they are doing the town a favor by paying the
They
stormwater.
want all the revenue and none of the expenses.
I don't know that is 100%, but
That's what's happening.
so. Brought up stormwater related thing because they were gonna charge us the equivalent of a hangar, and I question it because the T hangar is a much larger building than the one that's shaped like a plane on the first row. That is tiny in comparison to the T hangar. So if you divide it by 64, how many of them are out there, T hangars get gray, i.e. town, or the people who have a hangar that's 60 by 40 are getting gray, because the guy who's got that airplane sized hangar, with a shaped and sized hangar, is paying the equivalent runoff, and they're not taking off the taxi lanes and the driveway and everything else, which is really just the support operation expense, because that usually is part of the offset of the rental, the whole thing. So if it becomes one of our fees, we should either ask the question or assume correctly the amount, or have a conversation about how it's going to be tracked. So either one or both of the town budgets, this one